Hello friends, secretly subscribed to GameLeap here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy, and in this video, we're going to be discussing the things in Dota that are absolutely overpowered, that are going to get fixed in the next patch. We'll call it 7.22, it might be 7.23, it might be 7.3, it might be 8.0, who knows, but we'll call it 7.22. What are some of the things that you can get some free MMR with before the patch comes out after the major? Thing number one, Drow Ranger. See, the problem with this hero, in my opinion, and the reason that it's going to get changed is because the playstyle is exactly the same in every game. You go lane, you probably lose, you might win, it doesn't matter, who cares. Then you head straight to the farm triangle, and you farm there until you have 10 times the items that the enemy team does. And here's the thing, it's not unreasonable to have way more items than the enemy team. So no hero really counters Drow, because at a certain point she'll just have items that counter that hero. So for instance, in PL, you can build an Aghanim Scepter, and she farms so quickly that you'll get the Aghanim Scepter. And then, once you go into the late game, this thing pierces armor and evasion for some reason, and then also has 120 bonus damage. And then your whole team basically gets Hyper Stones, Moon Shards at a certain point. Look at this guy, soloing Roche, it's 11 minutes. Thing number two, the farm triangle. The problem with this area right here on both sides is that there's a shrine here people can TP into. It's a high ground. The camps are very close together, so you can stack them all, multiple camps at once. You can farm multiple camps at once, especially if you're a hero who can clear it quickly, like Medusa, Batrider, Drow Ranger, basically all the heroes that are incredibly popular right now. And once again, leading in from the Drow stuff, I don't think the Frog is going to like that most carries just lose the lane and then head straight over to the farm triangle. Hey, look, there's a carry. He's farming the triangle. Who would have figured? I think that's a pretty generic, boring playstyle, and as a result, they might take this shrine away, something like that. Thing number three, and this is actually a combination of things. I want to briefly mention some of the other heroes that I think are going to get nerfed. I think that all of the supports that completely change how the game is played are very likely to get nerfed, despite being kind of cool. Just the fact that there's this versatility, and you pick a Nature's Prophet, for example, whole game changes. You pick an Enigma, he does that Ring of Regen, Ring of Health pooling thing and denying, and it's really cool. However, with that being said, it's too strong. Every single support that's getting picked up right now, almost every single support that's getting picked up in competitive, is a hero that completely changes the dynamic of the game, and it's like a cheesy hero. And I think that the Frog could do with nerfing these heroes, and they'd still be good. So Enigma, Nature's Prophet, Abaddon's another one of those heroes. I think that the heroes that are not in Captain's Mode, Mars and Io, those are going to get nerfed because there's been enough information that the Frog can nerf them, maybe add them to Captain's Mode. Mars being a new hero makes sense. Io, maybe they won't add to Captain's Mode, just because I feel like the competitive meta has been extremely versatile due to this hero not existing within it. Medusa, this is probably the strongest carry in Dota right now. Even hard counters to her can't deal with her in the late game, and that seems problematic to me when there's no response to a Medusa, no real response. However, I would say that only slight nerfs are needed, just because I think that she benefits heavily from the farm triangle being so strong, and if you nerf that, then Medusa is going to be a little bit weaker because of that, or a lot weaker, honestly. And then when it comes to offlaners, Darkseer and Bat are two of the heroes that stand out to me, as the Frog almost always completely gives them the nerf stick if they're good, for whatever reason, just because they've seen play for, since Dota has been an esport. So these guys are definitely going to get the nerf stick. But there's a lot of good, viable offlaners. I think the meta's quite versatile. So there's a lot of heroes. I think these heroes will still be decent, but they're going to get nerfed. Thing number four, the Radiant. So I want to be kind of quick about this just because I made a whole other video on this topic, but the Radiant is way too strong. The win rate of Radiant is quite high in basically every tournament. This camp being able to quelling this tree and farm both the mid lane and this camp at the same time is an advantage over this side on the mid lane where you can't do that. The Dire off lane, the Radiant off lane, you can pull the creeps from the Dire in between these towers. You can't do that on the Dire off lane. The Radiant safe lane pull, this camp is much easier to pull than this camp. They did balance that a little bit, but still on the Radiant side you can pull this way, and there's 2 tree lines here that you can fog the enemy with, so it's hard for the enemy to stop you from doing that. As well as a bunch of other things, like you can play in the enemy jungle, for example, on the Radiant, and then you're near the Roche pit, and everybody plays in the enemy jungle. There's a lot of reasons, but I expect that there will be a balance in the 2 sides in Dota. Thing number 5, bounty runes. I personally am a fan of bounty runes. I like the fact that they're a different objective on the map from towers. I think that it makes it so that the side lanes are very different from the mid lane. You know, blocking is not a thing in the side lanes anymore. It's just a mid lane concept. You almost always push the lane in order to secure the bounty runes, which makes it so the equilibrium changes. There's a lot of good things with bounty runes. However, with that being said, it's been that way since bounties have been added to the game. So I think that that's something that the Frog is going to look at and be like, okay, we need to stir the pot a little bit. We need to see what happens if we make bounty runes only spawn on one of the rune spots randomly. Something like that. Something is going to change with bounties because they are too good. It is too predictable. People always fight at the 5-minute mark. People always push at the 5-minute mark. Every single game, it's the same thing happening, and it's dictated by the bounty runes, more so than towers. Finally, let's talk about items that are very likely to get nerfed. I would say that the items that are going to get nerfed are not what are good. It's the items that are getting picked up in every single game. So I personally think that Force Staff is amazing. I think the Medallion is amazing. They do get picked up, but nowhere near as much as something like a Guardian Greaves. And that's why Guardian Greaves, it's going to get the nerf bad. Spirit Vessel, that's another item. Everybody's picking it up on different roles, different archetypes of heroes. Sumail's gotten it as a mid laner. I've seen people pick it up as off laners. I've seen people pick it up as supports. Everybody's getting Spirit Vessel. It makes it so that you can solo kill people when you otherwise couldn't, because it just does so much damage. I think Vlad's, that's another one of these like S-tier items where 4 roles are getting it, mid laners, carries, just somebody needs to pick up a Vlad's in every single game. Drums used to be that item, but it's kind of falling off in favor of Spirit Vessel. People are building into Windlace. Maybe they'll pick up a crown, but they'll build the crown into something else and then use the Windlace to build into a Spirit Vessel, something like that. I would also predict Atos and Crimson Guard are going to get nerfed, maybe even Yule Scepter. These items are getting picked up a decent amount. I would say that Rod of Atos, there's an argument that it won't get a huge nerf just because it's been bad for a really long time and it's finally good. Yule Scepter, I think that it's mostly int heroes that are building this. There are not enough people building it that I'd say it's going to get a hard nerf stick. And Crimson Guard, this is something that people are building against physical damage heroes, but Vlad's is a really good item against physical damage heroes too, so that kind of outshines the Crimson Guard. It's mostly offlaners that are picking up a Crimson Guard. Other than that, I think there are items that are good but underrated, and I don't think those ones are going to get nerfed. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment below what you think is going to get nerfed. What is overpowered that I didn't mention? Maybe I'm a biased offlaner, so I'm not seeing something that should get nerfed because I play it. Maybe it's Pudge. Maybe I'm just not saying it because I don't want it to get nerfed. Anyway, comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.